Welcome to the Nexus Unloaded podcast. This is Will Crozier.
And I'm Mikki Westcombe. We are the founders of Nexus Performance. Joining us on this wild ride is our heavyweight coaching team, ready to unleash their expertise to solve any problems in your journey to getting strong and jacked.
Through our real-world experience, we hope to break things down in a digestible, applicable, and entertaining way.
So pump up the volume and let's get into this.
We're back. Hold on. I think there's another one. Oh, damn it, wrong one. There's another one.
By
We're back.
popular demand.
We are back. I love that I hit the wrong one.
I was like, no.
Failed straight away. God damn it. I know the red button though, but I don't know all the other buttons on there, so I'm still figuring it out. We did have a little thing that indicated what was what, but it's too far away. I need to here.
You need them like on The Simpsons when Homer had the thing that tapped the keyboard. You need a long stick.
See, this is a sad thing. I didn't really religiously watch The Simpsons growing up. So
No
when
judgment.
people make no judgment,
Well,
you
I
said
fucking
that
hate.
so
I
delicately.
hate Friends. I don't like Seinfeld. So
Yeah, well, I'm a Friends girl, so you can refer to Friends, and I would know what you're talking about. But there's so many times where Will would be like, "Oh, remember the Simpsons episode on this?" I'm like, huh.
Nope.
I watched it if it was on, but when people refer to Simpsons episodes or things like that, I'm like, yeah, you're just like, no,
yeah.
no
You're like, I want
Smile.
to fit in and not explain the story of my childhood where I either wasn't allowed or just wasn't interested in it.
smile and wave voice. Oh no, I was allowed. At the age of 9, I had watched Jeepers Creepers.
I haven't even seen that. What's that?
Oh, it's like a total horror. Are you into like thriller horror movies and stuff?
No, I just love Supernatural.
It's not supernatural. No,
Okay.
it's this demon dude that eats parts of people's bodies that he wants to
Oh, you watched that when you were 9?
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's people driving down this. Anyone that's watched Jeepers Creepers, there's a couple of things out. It's like a dark horror movie about this dude that eats parts of people, and then he has a little cave and he ties them and tapes them all together and puts them in his cave, and there's dead bodies all around his cave and stuff like that. It's pretty gruesome.
You've seen some shit.
Yeah, oh yeah. I watched and I don't know, as a kid it was Wrong Turn. Have you seen Wrong Turn?
No.
Okay, yeah. I've that was the stuff that I was growing up on, Hills Have Eyes, all those real dark horror movies of yeah, that's my dad for you. And then Jaws and that sort of stuff.
I love that though.
Jaws is a good
I think that's
one.
cool.
Yeah.
It's a classic.
Jaws is, yeah, but at the age of 9 to be watching Jeepers Creepers is pretty fucking
strung up bodies in a cave.
Yeah, people eating each other's eyes, and yeah, if he wants someone's voice, he'll eat their tongue and their vocal cords and stuff
That's
like that.
really interesting.
Yeah, it's
I
pretty
should
crazy.
see it.
If you're into
I don't mind that stuff.
really proper horror stuff.
Well, I don't know.
It's not like scary movie things where it's oh,
Okay.
he's chasing after
I
me.
like demon stuff. And
Yeah, okay.
All
It's
that kind of
it's
shit.
gruesome. It's gruesome.
I can't watch Ambulance Australia. You know that show where they it's the paramedics.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, I can't watch that. That's gruesome.
If there's a lot of blood and guts and stuff.
Nah.
There's not. I wouldn't say there's a lot of blood and guts. I don't know.
If it's really fake, I can watch it because I'm that's not real.
Yeah, okay. We'll put it on, see
Okay.
whether or not it's just a very dark movie.
I'll let
So,
you know.
if anyone out there's watched Jeepers Creepers, let us know. But yeah, it's a dark one. Okay, where were we? Today's episode, we're going to go into some meal timing tips for high calorie, low calorie budgets, and then in amongst that is going to be nutrient partitioning and all that sort of stuff. But before we get stuck into today's episode, we've got a couple of things going on here. The first question that I have for you,
Oh no.
is at the end of last year, you were doing a lot of dance.
Yes, hip hop dance class on a Tuesday.
Yeah. Are you still doing it?
No.
Because I haven't seen
Okay,
anything, and I haven't asked. I need a backstory.
need to know.
Why did you stop dancing?
Okay.
And will it be a return?
Well, I actually still liked it. I stopped it leading into my comp prep because it was going from 7 till 8, and I would train that morning at 4. and the days were getting long. It was pushing out my meals,
Mm.
and then it was disrupting my sleep, and I was finding it hard, like sometimes with the car, because Jared and I share the car.
Yep.
He was like working late, and then it was becoming like a lot to like
it was
navigate.
becoming more of a burden. To
Yeah,
pretend.
it was becoming hard. And then it was like $20 a class. And I was like, oh, and then I like added up the $20 across the year. And I was like, well, I should just invest in like a spin bike to do my cardio. Because the whole reason was to do cardio because I wanted to see if doing more cardio improved my like cholesterol. Anyway, it didn't. I'm on meds now, but
What are you taking?
A statin.
Okay.
Like a low dose. I was prescribed it. So anyway, long story short, I'm still doing cardio, but dancing was just becoming like harder to fit in.
Yeah.
And yeah, like maybe I'll return. We'll see. But for the moment, I'm really enjoying my bike sessions in the morning. I pump my tunes.
Yes, you've been smashing out your bike sessions. I've
I
seen
love
that.
it. It makes me feel so good afterwards. Like I just feel like I'm floating throughout the day. Like I just feel so zen.
Yeah, okay.
So zen.
Oh my God.
I'm literally
One second. This is.
I'm like having a moment. I'm like, I love it.
I think. Hold on. There is another one that would probably suit that.
Yes, that's
is that a zen or is that too? Oh.
Nah. That do. That's how my soul feels like afterwards, and I'm like, nothing can like get me down today because I just did some cardio on the bike.
Because I've seen Joey doing her dance. She's essential. Dancer.
She's so good.
Shout out Joey.
She's so good. Yeah. I was like, damn.
Does she actually have a dance background? I should probably find out.
I think she's been doing it for a while.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then she goes to a studio. I think she's doing it twice a week now.
Okay.
Which is good because we got into doing a bit more movement, and now it's like actual getting your heart rate up.
Yeah.
Yeah, and she's so good. I'm like, damn, like I can't move my hips
she'll
like
post
that.
her stories and stuff like that. I'm just like,
she does the hair flicks, and I'm like, I just look like an awkward, like waddling, like I just so stiff.
Do you know that Willow Smith's song? I whip my hair back and forth, and it's like fully aggressive. That's Jordan trying to be like a sensual like hair flick.
You should see me trying to. I tried to work at home, and Jared's like, just stop. It's like, I'm embarrassed.
I actually, because obviously you have 2 different Instagram accounts, and I'm friends with one, and I seem for whatever reason to be on your close friends list with both. So the other day, because Jason, shout out Jace, because he says he loves our podcast episodes. He listens to all of our episodes. So whilst I was in Townsville, Jason was there for the last couple of days, and I showed him the video of you on the bench.
Dancing on a Saturday night.
And I was just like, did you know that Jordan has another account? Check this out. I'm on her close friends list. And he's just sitting there and he's like, what the fuck is she doing? It's just,
I'm a bit of a loose unit.
I've seen the shit that Jared posts on you as well, like throwing a tantrum in the middle of the fucking shopping centre and sprinting down the aisles because it doesn't have the sauce that you want. We've lost Jordan. We've lost her.
Yeah. Good.
She's a wild child.
Good times.
Quite literally. But yes, so obviously the last week, not obviously, the last week I have been in Townsville, so I'm back on the Goldie now, onboarding our new manager, Ben. So shout out Ben. Ben is taking over the Townsville space, just bringing good vibes up there all round. He is an absolute legend. Found out a lot about him over the last week, which is nice just to kind of like
get to know
people. So he's in a few bands up in Townsville.
I can't believe that. A few.
Yeah. Like I think it's quite common for people to be in like different bands, because one of them, I was listening to, like, I did a little bit of a stalking and stuff like that whilst I was up there, and one of them was like pretty hardcore, definitely up your alley. Something that you would be into. And then the other stuff is like, you know, not quite as like metal scream and stuff. So, and I think that's one of the things when you're in like bands like that, there is like some people don't want to constantly be that. Like the scream. I'm just going to call it the scream, the screamo sort of stuff. And then there's the other end where it's like it's metal, it's hardcore, but it's not.
It's different. breaks it up a bit.
Yeah, exactly. So he does
Okay.
vocals for one of them, I think, but he prefers guitar. So
Okay.
he's solid guitarist. But yeah, so I've been up there over the last week helping him out, and it's just it's been really, really cool just to meet a lot of the new members that are up there as well. So there's new faces that are coming in,
Nice.
and they're all like looking at me and Ben, not knowing who either
You're
of
like,
we
who are
are.
you? And you're like, I own this place.
I try not to say. I try not to start off like that. I'm just like, oh hi, like introduce you
Yeah.
to Ben. He's our new manager, and they're like, oh hello, and I'm like, hi, I'm Mikki. I'm one of the owners. That's
Yeah.
all I say.
Yeah.
Like I introduce Ben first before being like, I own this place. And everyone's like, oh hi. So just finding out when they've joined and that sort of thing. So it's been really nice to meet a lot of the new people up there, and just check out the space, some of the new equipment that we've got up
I
there.
saw you trained. You played around with some of the new stuff.
Played around, yeah, because over the week, like the first 3 days in particular, I was coming home and I just had like a throbbing headache because you're just like talking
Constantly.
so much,
And it's probably humid. You're probably not.
Yeah. And for those of like people out there are probably just laughing because I talk so much as it is anyways. But even more for like
10-hour days?
Yeah.
More?
Yeah. Like 8-hour days with Ben, and then like I would stay back a little bit longer and talk to some of the members and or I'd get in earlier and I'd do some stuff. So talking to like clients or those sorts of things. So it was the first 3 days was definitely like it was a lot. And I'm sure for Ben it was a lot too.
It's always so fatiguing.
Yeah, there's like so much to absorb. From so we started off just giving him a lay of the land, talking about like the different memberships and all that sort of stuff, and then from there it was like, okay, the systems, the sales process, the social media things, like understanding our brand identity and just like Nexus as like at its core. Obviously still getting to know a lot of the members and just making sure that he feels like he's got all the tools to flourish over the next couple of weeks and months, and then obviously there'll be more mentoring and things like that as we go through the process. So we've got our first comp happening up there in May the 4th.
Oh my god, all the names.
It's a GPC comp, but I've now, after discussions with a few people, I'm going to introduce a novice category to that as well, because we've got quite a few people up there that want to compete that are a little on the fence about the whole federations and they're quite new to it. So hopefully by introducing a novice category, it'll just,
That's a good idea because they can prep with the more experienced people as well. And it's fun when you've got a big group of people all prepping together.
Yeah, exactly. So that'll be the next sort of learning experience for Ben. Because, though he's experienced in gyms and in the fitness industry for a very long time.
Hosting a comp's a different beast.
Well, funny enough, he actually used to work at Valhalla before we bought it. So when they first opened their first ever location, the previous owners contacted Ben, and he was like going to be a PT out of there when they first kicked everything off. But obviously as a new gym, it can kind of like take a little while for trainers to get up. So he ended up moving on, and then he's back there again. So but under a new banner, new branding. But there's a lot of people that were members like way back
and they
then,
knew him
and they recognized him, and he pulled out the old photos.
Oh my
and stuff god,
like that's
that.
cute.
So, it was
meant
good.
to be.
It was good. Yeah, it's a good overall week up there. But yes, very much looking forward to being back home and just letting everyone kind of like find their paces and keep moving forward. So that was my adventure up there. Didn't really get up to a whole lot else. Popped into Recovery Lab and did a little
hung out with Jason at Recovery.
a little compression thing, and
went axe throwing.
We went axe throwing. Yep. I sucked. But
I mean, it'd be hard.
It was funny because they're like, oh, everyone like get up and like have a test run first before you get into it. And I'm like, I was standing closest to the dude and like, you want to go first? And I was like, oh, fuck, like this is going to like bounce off and I'm going to suck and it's going to be so embarrassing. Like first one up throwing. And then I just like fucking bullseyed it straight away. And I was like, oh shit, son, like we
Oh my
on. And then
God.
literally like the next 10 throws just bounced off the wall.
That's pretty much me in bowling.
It's
You
just-
get one like at the start,
the first one, and then
you
it's just like,
suck.
hold
Yeah.
on, hold on. Then it's like this.
Wah,
Oh god. So yes, bit sucky, but and then we had the weight cutting masterclass up there. That was on Monday as well.
Yeah, that went really well. I like that.
Yeah, I was very brain dead by the end of it.
I couldn't tell.
You were brain dead by the end of it as well. I think everyone was just like, holy shit, like it's a long, long day.
Yeah, I mean, it did cut into dinner time, and then before I knew it, I was like, it's bedtime.
Yeah. So, no, that was great. Really enjoyed presenting that. Had some great questions and conversations come up in it, and obviously it's just a good little drip feed and exposure to the
Nutrition course
we have going on as well, which kicks off by the time this airs. It'll be about a week out until it starts. So really looking forward to getting stuck into that. Having you present a couple more times on it as well, and you've done some pre-recorded lectures.
Yeah, I did my pre-recorded lecture last week on injury nutrition. So went back and looked at all of the resources I had and made some changes to the slide. But no, I'm really excited.
Made it something more you as well than how because we present slightly differently.
Yeah, I feel like when I look at your slides, I'm like, I don't speak like that. And there's like lots of content and I get overwhelmed. So I'll kind of rejig them a bit. And then I put in some examples of how I've used some of the stuff with my own clients, because I always find like examples of things is really helpful. So I did a bit of that, and then refined the live lecture about putting a plan together and all of that, which I'm excited about because I like getting people involved and talking.
That was more of our case study presentation as well. So it was getting more interactive and stuff like that,
because there's no right or wrong.
For sure. There's so many different ways that you could take a plan and a prep, and that's where those case studies I think are really, really cool. So yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing how it all comes together. I've got to re-record the weight cutting masterclass. Re-record the weight cutting presentation for it, because obviously after doing the masterclass, I really spice that up. And I've put even more into the pre-record. So I'll get that sorted, and then it's just adding in all the resources and all the other bits and pieces that we've got.
A lot going into it.
Yeah, it's cool. I'm really looking forward to it. But let's get stuck into today's episode. Because it's a juicy one, but I feel like we're pretty on top of this. We've kind of drip fed it in multiple different episodes over the last few weeks, and so context, what we mean by meal timing and why is it important for a powerlifter. I think it's important just to give us an overview of what meal timing is in its broadest term.
Well, I guess to simplify it, it's kind of like how we're structuring our meals across our day. If we want to kind of go that next step, it's kind of like how we dividing our macronutrients across the day and factoring in, I guess, when we're training and thinking about our preferences as well. I guess there's no golden number of meals you have to have per day. Some people like having 3 to 4 bigger meals. Some people don't snack. So it's kind
Some people only snack.
And it's kind of looking at all of that and then thinking about, okay, what are our goals? When are we training? And then trying to then kind of look at like a puzzle and kind of shift all the pieces around so it works for us and in our favor. I don't know. How would you describe meal timing? I'm like,
I think you've hit the nail on the head there.
I'm like, I don't know how to describe this.
No, I think you've hit the nail on the head there, because when Will and I were talking about this previously, it was just understanding that, like you said, there's no set rules around it. There are things within meal timing that definitely have importance, and you've mentioned those, like the nutrient partitioning and making sure that you're getting in your proteins across each meal and prioritizing certain macros at certain times of the day and stuff like that. And I think that's where, when you get into some of the nuances of meal timing, that's where that sort of stuff gets exciting, because meal timing in a broad term can be when you eat your meals and how you prioritize them across the day to satisfy appetite and hunger.
Yep.
So that's like one category of it. And then when
Yeah.
you go to the next layer of it, when you're looking at like the performance side of things, it's then like, okay, well, how can we utilize the certain nutrients at certain times of the day to actually accommodate recovery and performance and energy levels and all that sort of stuff. So that there's like, and then within that, it's like, all right, what about like certain nutrients and things like that? So there's like layers to it. But I think you've hit the nail on the head in terms of the general overview of it. So
you know, when something's so simple, you're like, did I fuck that up when I explained it?
Is it really that easy?
What is meal timing?
But yeah, like a lot of people like to jump straight to it. I think that's one of the cons. And you know what? There's actually been instances where maybe I do like jump ahead a little bit to meal timing over like calories and macros and stuff like that for some people, because by creating that structure in their routine is going to suit the adherence and the behavior of things, which then you can work in calories and macros and stuff like that within it. So like it's a little bit of a jigsaw piece sometimes when you're working with people, and like it's not very often that I'll go straight to like, you know, meal timing to help accommodate accountability, or sorry, to help accommodate like adherence and stuff like that. But it's definitely, you know, one of those things as a coach, it's context dependent on the individual. So.
Yeah, because that's the thing. Like, I think I'm always conscious that I don't want to then put my preference onto other people, because I know how I like to split my food across the day. But I'm like, oh no, when I've got someone new coming on board, I'm like, how do you eat? Like, what do you like having?
Yeah.
And then I will try weave in, like when I make something with them, I weave all that stuff in without necessarily explaining it in the first instance, because it's like a lot.
Yeah, for sure. And that's one of the things as you get through the coaching experience as a client or as a coach helping other people, it's just like not overwhelming them with information and having them become like, oh my God,
if I don't
so
have
much.
this at this time,
then I failed and now I'm going to feel really guilty, and that's going to like spiral out of control and stuff like that. So like one of the points you've made in here is, you know, meal timing can make or break our goals. How we time our meals can help with consistency, adherence, influence training adaptations, and all that sort of stuff. So I feel like we've really kind of covered that.
Yeah. And I think the biggest thing that people, because I know before we were talking about how some people are like, oh, meal timing doesn't matter. And I would say it matters a lot just for someone's adherence and just how to get through a day.
Yeah.
And even if you're not a performance-based athlete or whatever, you're probably working during the day.
Yeah.
If you're not eating until like 3 o'clock in the afternoon, how are you doing well at your job?
Yeah. Oh, I know.
like I think as well, like it's important for everyone, because I have so many clients be like, oh, I don't really like eating during the day. And I'm like, okay, when are you most active? And they're like, oh, during the day. And I'm like, so no wonder we're like waking up at night and eating. Like
100%. And that was one of the things that like we touched on in the last episode with my own, you know, struggles of eating and stuff. And we're kind of like jumping ahead here a little bit in terms of some of the, no, don't apologize. But, you know, where I'm not hungry first thing in the morning, and then it pushes back the timing of when you're eating everything, and then you're eating a lot more food later in the day and stuff like that. So you're going to bed feeling really full, then you wake up and you're not really hungry because you're just pushing everything back. So having that meal timing, like you said, can create that structure, that adherence, and help them out with their performance and their energy levels consistently across the day. And when you look at like, you know, blood sugar levels and like want to like go to those deeper layerings of it, you know, to help with that sort of consistency, reduce cravings and all that sort of stuff. Like it definitely has validity, not just from the performance side, but just from, like you were saying, like the energy consistency. And if you're someone that struggles a lot with cravings, then, you know, having a look at when you're eating, when do people most typically have those cravings? Like I know most of my clients, it's between like 2 and 5 o'clock, and it's because they've either not had lunch, or they're not being consistent with when they're consuming certain things, and typically they'll have those cravings, they'll devour everything, and then they don't really eat dinner because they've consumed so much
and
in
the
that
cycle
window.
repeats because they feel bad the next day.
Exactly. Yeah. So I think we'll get into some of the meal timing sort of differences, and that's what you've got here. Like, there is a personal preference in lifestyle. So whether someone wants to eat 3 or 4 larger meals or 3 main meals and some snacks, like there's different ways in which people can consume certain things. I know, like, for Will, when he was having to consume a lot of different, like a lot of calories,
Food.
food and calories, a lot of calories. He didn't have set meals or set meal timing. He just didn't stop eating.
Just constantly grazing and eating.
So there was always food at his like disposal.
Desk or, yeah.
So he would still have like his core protein meals. He would have his core like main meals. So it would be, like a protein dense sort of nutrient dense breakfast. And then between like 8 and 10, he'd be just grazing on food. Then he'd have his main meal at 12 o'clock or 1 o'clock or something like that. Then he'd probably eat again before he went to the gym. So he'd have like
4 main.
So he'd have 4 main meals, and then between each of those he was grazing. So brekkie at before 8, between 8 and 10 was like grazing, and then like 11:30, 12 he'd have another meal, and then it would be grazing, and then about 3 o'clock he'd have another meal. Then he'd go to the gym. When he's at the gym, he was like, everyone used to joke about him having those Peckish crackers. He'd eat a whole pack of those Peckish crackers throughout his gym sessions. He'd get home at 6, 7-ish, and then have another meal, and then he'd have like something sweet before bed. So there was never a point where food wasn't around. And that's just one of the things you kind of have to do when you're trying to put weight on and actively be gaining and stuff like that. So, he was never absolutely stuffed and full, but he was never hungry either. So, meal timing in that sort of situation, like, is
not a thing.
It is in the way of nutrient timing
for around training. But then no set snacks. Like,
I think when you also look at it, it's like he's never depleted. You know what I mean? He was never flat because there was always a surplus of energy sort of coming in. So it didn't matter too much in that regard when it came to like making sure you have enough carbs in and stuff like that. It was just making sure that he didn't have too much like fibrous fatty meals before he would train, so he wasn't bloated and distended and stuff like that during his gym sessions. So that's where it was like the finer art of like meal timing would kind of come in to accommodate his sessions. But like what do you find most of your clients do when it comes to like their core meals and stuff like that, or when you create meal plans, going back to like one of the last episodes, like what do you find most of your clients and you yourself prefer?
So usually myself and my clients, for most of them, it's between like 3 to 4 like meals per day, with then like smaller snack options that they would have either around their training or whenever they want throughout the day. So when I'm making a plan for someone, though I don't necessarily all the time say this to them at the get-go, but I'm always thinking about the complete sources of protein with each of those main meals, roughly trying to have an even split. And again, total protein at the end of the day matters the most. But if we wanted to get into like the weeds of like
muscle protein synthesis,
like, and if I can do that for the client, I'm going to do that for the client.
100%.
And then looking at like we spoke about last week, like the main things that we tick off, like plants, grains and all of that. And then when it comes to like snacks, asking them like, do you like eating before you train? Some people train early and they've never eaten before they train. So
I've got a couple of people that are runners. Like one lady in particular is doing like a half marathon. And for her, when she was running at like 6 a.m. in the morning, she actually had to like train herself to
got to train the gut.
To actually eat something. Because that early in the morning, she's like, I don't want to eat, but then I get home and I'm like exhausted before I even start my day because I've gone for like a longer run. Or while she's running, she starts to then feel
like
like
low
the
blood
dizziness
sugar.
or that sort of
Yeah.
thing, the side effects of low blood sugar. So it started off with just like have a banana, like have a piece of fruit
Yeah.
that was like more carby dense,
Yeah.
so that you didn't have that fullness, and then it progressed from there to the old like English muffin with some jam, and then from there it progressed to like that with a piece of fruit and
Yeah.
maybe like a liquid calories,
Yeah.
like a glass
Yeah.
of juice or something. So it was just like slowly exposing herself to that so that she would feel more comfortable, and
Yeah.
that changes. Like sometimes you might just have a piece of fruit and a glass of juice and then she'd go run and she'd be totally fine. But those are one of the things
Yeah.
like you have to train yourself to. So when
Yeah.
you train in the morning, like what does that look like for you?
For me, it's either at the moment it's crumpets with jam.
Yeah. At the moment it's been like that for like
oh no, last year it was English muffins.
Okay.
Soon hot cross buns will make their way into the
Okay.
rotation.
Okay.
But it depends as well as like what I'm doing. Like
Yeah.
at maintenance, there's more kind of options.
Yeah.
But again, it depends on like what I'm doing in the morning. So the other day I posted about like when I was on the bike.
Yeah.
60 minutes of like zone 2 work on the bike. I don't want carbs in me before then. I'm happy to do that fasted.
Yeah.
And the adaptations that I want, like I don't need carbs in me to kind of get
Yeah.
them.
Yeah.
So I would always ask my clients like, yeah, like what does your training session look like? How long
Yeah.
are you training for? And then I'll kind of give them recommendations based off that. Jumping a little bit ahead, like if I have clients that have an abundance of calories to play with, this is where I might look at intra-training carbs or
Yes.
suggestions for them to kind of snack on
Yeah.
if they're doing a longer session.
Yeah.
Why not? If they want to have something during, get something in.
Yeah, 100%. And that would typically be like something that is not like a large meal.
No, like
or
maybe some lollies.
Yeah.
Some like
Maximus drinks.
yeah,
like,
yeah.
electrolyte sort of
If
drink.
someone wants to bring like a little packet of pikelets and snack on
Yeah.
those, why not? Like an
Yeah.
LCM bar, something small. Like for instance, like Jason, I had this conversation with him the other day. He has about 80 grams of carbs pre-training,
Yeah.
which is quite,
It's
on
good
the
amount.
upper end.
Yep.
We can have more, and we're looking to build some size. So I was like, all
Yeah.
right, if you want to top that up and have a bit more before you train,
Yeah.
we can increase that a little bit.
Yeah.
And then just make sure we're having intra as well.
Yeah.
So it depends as well on the person's goal,
Yeah.
what their calorie budget looks like.
You don't want them coming in with like a buttload of carbs and feeling uncomfortable before they even start their session as well.
No.
So that's where the intra carbs and stuff can be quite helpful.
Yeah, exactly. Whereas if I had someone who's a little bit smaller who didn't have a massive calorie budget, I'm not going to throw intra carbs at them in the first instance, because they might want to eat something a bit more, with potato or like whole grains later in the day to help them with like keeping fuller for longer.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's also very context dependent.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've just put together a bit of a plan for Keita as she comes into Pro Raw, and one of the things that she expressed to me was like she doesn't have a large appetite throughout the day. So one of the meals that I put together was like a mince and potatoes and all that sort of thing, and she looked at it and she's like,
Too
it's
much.
like there's a lot of volume.
Yeah.
And so I've told her to like separate that into 2 smaller servings. So that's another thing. Like you don't have to eat it all at once. You can like have your typical brekkie at 7, 8 a.m. or whenever you want to eat, and then at 10 o'clock have like the first portion of that, and then she trains around like 1, 2 o'clock. So maybe at 12 o'clock she can have the second portion of that and have some calories coming in. Goes and trains, and then she's got other snacks and stuff like that, because she'll come home and it's not dinner time yet. Like some people that train in the afternoon, they'll come home and then it's dinner time, so they'll go and start prepping their food. So she'll get home at maybe 4 or 5 o'clock or something, and she'll have something light, and that's like a yogurt and some berries is the thing that I've put in there for her, and then she'll have dinner. Or I've told her she can have dinner early and have the yogurt and berries before she goes to bed. And use that. So like it's one of those things you can kind of like flip around and work around and stuff. But I've found a lot of success with people that struggle with like cravings, or appetite control and like over snacking, because if you do put like a lot of snacks and stuff like that in someone's diet, and utilize that as like a pre-training sort of carbs, I found success in using like a little bit of like a smaller meal there. So I'll make their breakfast, their typical sort of brekkie. I might do like a satay chicken sort of stir fry thing for lunch at 12 o'clock ish, and then at that 2 o'clock sort of 3 o'clock window before they may be sort of packing up their day, I'll give them like a wrap or something that is a little bit lighter, but still considered for some people like a meal rather than a snack. And then then they'll go off and train on something like that rather than using it to be like a carby dense sort of thing. Does that make sense?
That makes sense. Yeah. I think for some people, who are bigger, maybe like that could work really well instead of having to constantly have smaller snacks and always be like, what am I eating next? What am I eating next? Like,
the wraps aren't like a big voluminous, like thick wraps. They're like 50 grams of ham, some spinach leaves, some lettuce, some tomatoes, something like that. And then it's just like, it's small enough that it doesn't make you feel like you've had a large meal, but it's also satisfying enough that you don't feel like you need any more snacks or that sort of thing. So like if someone's prone to overly snacking in that's where that could be a really helpful sort of thing. And it still keeps in with that like nutrient timing window of like, every 3 to 4 hours or whatever.
So many ways you can do it. Because I know for me, I personally would prefer to just have a meal, that lunch meal, and give it 3 hours because I hate training feeling full.
Yeah.
And again, it's like where it comes down to people's and how they, some people like having like 3 meals in them before they get under a barbell.
Yeah. You can't do that in comp though, so you need to expose
you gotta
yourself
like
to different
again
things.
you need to kind of like learn. The other thing I was gonna say too is we're talking about adherence. A lot of people tend to have small lunches, I find. And then that's what also, like, they're always, like, relying on snacks in their day. And I'm like, have you ever thought about bulking your lunch up?
Yeah. Making it something that's a little bit more satisfying.
Yeah, and I don't know where this comes from, but a lot of, like, adults eat lunch like a kid lunch still.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that's because, you grew up with, like, a sandwich in a lunchbox and that's how you just think that we eat now. But like, I know a lot of people are like, oh, like, is that what you're having for lunch? Like, you eat a lot of food. I'm like, I actually don't. Like, this is just like what a lunch could
this
look
is what
like.
I'm comfortable eating.
This keeps me full for ages.
So do you typically do like 3 core meals across the day, like breakfast, lunch, dinner, and then you'll have like, because you train in the morning, you'll have your crumpets or hot cross bun or whatever it is?
Yeah. So for me, I prefer 3 big meals. Breakfast I'll usually have between 8 and 9.
Yeah.
Lunch I'll usually have it around 1. Dinner's usually 6.
Yeah.
And then I'll have like pre-training meal snack on training days.
Yeah.
And then my snacks throughout the day are literally like maybe some fruit.
Yeah.
And something sweet before bed.
Yeah.
But that's about it.
Yeah. Where I do a similar sort of thing. I'll have like a smoothie typically because I actually don't have an appetite in the morning, whereas I know if you don't eat something in the morning you're like like my brain doesn't function.
I had 1/5 of my breakfast before we started recording because I knew you'd get upsetty, so I was like, I need to eat.
Me get upset, you're the one that starts to go brain fog. Like, I can see you like decline.
Wah.
I can see you decline as the podcast goes on. It's just the time that we have these podcasts as well,
it's
right?
Peak breakfast time for me. So I've learnt have a little bit beforehand, and then I'll go home and I'll eat the rest.
Finish the rest of it. Whereas I don't have an appetite at all in the morning. Like even now it's 8:45 and I haven't eaten anything yet. I've had a coffee. But I'll go and I have brought food here with me.
Yeah, good.
And I will go and eat something afterwards. So I typically I'll push my food back, but I don't have an issue with fasting at all. Like going back to some of my old bodybuilding days and stuff, like there was days where I would have my first meal at 1-2 o'clock in the afternoon, because I was on such a small calorie allotment, and I was like, well, I'd rather push it most of my calories around my training and stuff like that as well. So I would fast for a longer period of time, like have like a long black or something like that, and then I would fast till 1 o'clock, and then have most of my calories between 1 o'clock and 7 o'clock. So I'd have like a 7-hour window to consume, 6-7 hour window to consume my calories. And one of the things when you're a bodybuilder and you have, for me, the last 5 weeks, it was 900 calories a day. So it was not a fun time.
It's not a normal thing.
Not
it's
a normal
extreme
thing
sport,
to do.
everyone.
It's not something you encourage. But when we're looking at like weight cutting scenarios and stuff like that. Like learning how to handle hunger is definitely a skill. And you know, you can try like fasting windows and stuff like that throughout the course of your prep. Anyways, we're going totally off topic here when it comes to meal timing. So what have we got here? Make sure that I'm still on track with it. May need to introduce more snacks, reduce volume, meal timing big rocks, balance main meals containing complete sources of protein. Kind of gone through all that sort of stuff, but we have touched on like total protein type and timing, and then there's performance like carbs type and timing. Do you want to go into that anymore, or do you feel like we've kind of ticked?
I think we can go to the next one and we'll weave those things in.
Yeah. All right. So regardless of what phase we're in, we want to consider the above to get our bang for buck around training and performance. And then the next couple of points here is we've got like challenges for people on low calorie budgets and challenges for people on high calorie budgets.
Yep.
So you want to get into that stuff.
Yeah, do you want to do that?
Yeah, cool.
Okay.
For those that are like listening in, this is what Jordan and I, when we plan these episodes, we just sit here and we're like, oh, cool, let's brain dump everything into these
so
things.
many notes. You guys don't even understand.
But you wrote all these notes out and
on Friday. That was a different me.
I know. And you write like complete sentences, whereas I'm like dot point get to like so when I'm reading these I'm like, all right, what was the core thing that I need to
I know where this
about?
I'll tell you where this comes from after the podcast. There's a story.
Your comms days.
Yeah.
All right, so timing meals to ensure there's enough food coming in pre-training, post-training, getting carbs in, or a meal in prior to training, getting enough protein in. This is 1 dot point for those listening. This is 1 dot point from Jordan. Getting enough protein in post, containing 2 to 3 grams of leucine. This is one of the notes under low calorie budgets.
That's one note. Okay, it's because when I used to do comms, there was this working group and I had to do the minutes and they were insane. There were people from Melbourne Uni, like high head of like Peter MacCallum Cancer Centre, because we were literally tunneling under them.
Yeah. Okay.
And we were fucking up all their equipment.
Yeah.
And, you know, basically they're like, we're trying to save lives and cure people of cancer and your work is like
disrupting that.
So we'd have these big meetings and I'd have to take minutes.
Yeah.
But they couldn't just be dot points. They had to be like manuscripts of the entire meeting, because then people would trawl through them and be like, I didn't say that, because like legal shit was at stake.
Yeah.
So now when I write notes, I'm like scared. I'm like, I gotta get everything out. Anyway, so I guess when you're on like less calories, this is where I think you need to be a little bit more savvy and planning ahead.
Yeah.
And this is something that like I guess both of us can relate to, being, you know, in your bodybuilder days, and if I'm dieting, you have to be a bit more sparing with how you divide things up.
Yes.
We also want to make sure that we're keeping full throughout the day and choosing lots of like nutrient dense options, and then also making sure we're sparing our performance carbs around our training where we need it, so we can still get bang for your buck out of your training, and then making sure we're not sacrificing like, or we're retaining as much muscle mass as possible by making sure we're getting in an abundance of protein, complete sources, and trying to evenly split that across the day, getting enough leucine in to like stimulate it, which usually is around 20 to 40 grams of protein for 2 to 3 grams of roughly. So I think that's where you need to be a little bit more like meticulous with your timing and diligent. And we want to make sure, like you said, we've got those meal times in a way that we're still going to be hungry, but we know that there's going to be food coming in at some point.
Yeah.
And
it's okay to have that little bit of hunger as a physical cue to be like, all right, it's time to consume something.
And when you have consistency with your meals across the day, usually our our hungers, like it catches on, and we usually tend to then just feel hungry when it's time to eat.
Yeah.
If you're in an aggressive dieting phase, you're probably always going to have a little bit of hunger
hunger's
there.
gonna be there.
And that's normal, and that's what you've chosen.
Yeah. And when you're in those like low calorie phases and stuff, like typically, obviously food volume is something you can kind of play around with, but if you're finished a meal and you're still hungry, like give yourself like 10 to 15 minutes and you'd be surprised how like as you allow that food to kind of settle, the hunger is like it subsides as well. So yeah, because I think when people like they go into the dieting mind frame, they're like, oh, I'm going to feel hungry, so that like hunger is actually like it's in a little bit more of a hyperdrive too.
I think people are scared of hunger.
Yeah.
They think it's wrong or bad or they shouldn't be feeling it, and they load up on ridiculous, like, high volume things to kind of run
counter
from it. But
yeah.
if anything, you're still going to be hungry. Your stomach's just going to be really fucking full.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly.
it's still going to be there.
I don't think feeling hunger is a bad thing in any way. And I actually spoke to a client about this the other day. When it comes to, I was like, you know, do you have kids? Like, anyone out there who's got kids or been around kids or babysat or whatever, we've got one right here.
I was like, where am I sitting on the
seeing
baby?
your tantrums. But like, trying to feed a child when they're not hungry is like mission impossible, right? Because they're so in tune with their hunger.
I don't want it.
Yeah, I'm not hungry. I don't want it. Whereas as you get older and you're more exposed to stresses and stuff like that, you tend to lose that connectivity between your hunger. So I think, like, learning to just live with it for a while and understand the differences between, like, your appetite and your hunger and stuff is a really important skill to kind of have. But again, going off topic there. So I guess when you're in a caloric deficit, that's where carb types and timing and protein types and timing matter a little bit more.
Yeah, because I guess if you're in a deficit and you've got a small calorie window, you're probably not going to be chowing down on a hot cross bun as like a snack.
Yeah.
I would want something like that before my training session because I'm like, I know, like, yes, this is going to, like,
give me a little kick.
Yeah, because it's, you know, faster absorbing, bit more like there to use.
Yeah.
Whereas, like, if I wasn't training, I would maybe put some more Wheat Bix in my breakfast to help with, like, you know, feeling a bit fuller for longer.
Yeah.
And then when it comes to, like, pre-training carbs for a lower calorie, you'd want to look at, like, a banana.
Yeah.
Probably not like a ton of lollies or things like that.
Yeah, you're not going to be filling that with, like, low residue things.
Yeah, you kind of want to stretch it as far as you can.
One of my favorite go-to low-calorie pre-training snacks would be, like, a couple of corn thins with some honey and banana on top. So they're all, like, relatively, and honey's one of those things, unlike jam, you can spread a little bit a long way.
Yeah.
So you can use a small amount of honey, get a, you know, like maybe 10 grams of carbs in or something like that, 10 grams from the corn thins and like 20 to 30 grams from the banana. You can get like 40 grams of carbs in from those things and have it, you know, like, not feel overly full in your tummy.
That's decent because usually recommendations are like 0.5 to 1 gram per kilo body weight. So for someone who's small, like, that's a decent hit.
Yeah, for sure. And it's enough to kind of tie them over through their session and then following their session as well. So, it really depends on the individual and that. But those are, like, that's one of my favorite, like, pre-training sort of like top-ups of carbs without it feeling like you're going in with a full tummy.
But then on the other hand, someone who trains in the afternoon may not even need it. If they've got lunch coming in, and they're training maybe 3 hours after lunch, maybe they don't need to have something extra and they can then allocate those calories to dinner or dessert.
Yeah.
So it's all very, like, again, it's like moving the pieces around, understanding
100%.
how we can stretch them as far as possible.
Yeah, exactly. And that's one of the notes you've got here as well, is, like, you can then add more volume to other meals and stuff like that to zhuzh them up through vegetables or salads and stuff.
Yeah.
So let's have a chat about some of the high calorie budget people.
Yep.
Note we've got here, it's a little bit of a shorter note.
What have I written? What did past me do?
Mistiming meals resulting in playing catch up, often leading to bloat, discomfort, and a lack of appetite in the following day.
Yep. So I think for people with higher calorie needs, the morning and, like, getting up and eating your first meal is really important. I don't know how many conversations I've had with people where they've slept in and then it's just
pushes everything
back, and then they're eating dinner at like 11 o'clock at night.
I've had a lot of clients, like, stay up late just to finish their meals or get their calories in. I'm like, you realize that, like, sleep is a really important like a really important component to recovery. And if you're only getting 5 hours of sleep in to make up for 50 grams of calories, cut the fucking
I just say cut your losses and go to bed, and
exactly
tomorrow's a new day.
And the thing is like, you have to kind of slowly push things back. It's not one of those things that, like, if you're waking, if you're used to going to bed at, midnight or something like that, because your last meal is at 11, you're waking up at like, 8, 9 o'clock or whatever, like you do have to kind of shift that with time. And it's not like the next day, oh, I'm going to wake up at 6 o'clock and everything's going to be like, all sunshine and daisies. Like you do have to slowly
a few weeks,
work
maybe
your way through that.
half-hour increments.
And I think it's important for athletes out there to recognize that you can't expect to do like an instant flip like that. Like you can, but it's probably going to be a tough like week or so to do it.
Back in the habit.
Get into that routine. So, and it's the same thing with like when people come back from holidays and all that sort of stuff. Like there's typically like a week or so, and we talked about this when you came back. Like there's a week or so of like adjusting to all that sort of thing. And that's just, I think if you give yourself that awareness of those things, it's
start working on it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So usually when I have someone with, I guess, like 4,000, 5,000 calorie kind of days, I'd ask them, like, tell me, like, what does your day look like?
Yeah.
What time are you waking up? When are you getting your first meal in? And more often than not, we're like, all right, well, maybe we need to change that first meal to something like a liquid.
Yes.
Like we're talking about, to kind of help with just getting something in the morning.
Yeah.
So that we're ticking off like 500 calories or something then.
Yeah. Or more. I'll like my
500 to 1,000.
I'll usually go closer to the 1,000 mark. Yeah.
I was just trying to be like conservative.
Yeah.
You're like, nah. You call me out. Yeah. So usually it's between 500 to 1,000 there, and then like we kind of have 1,000. Anyway, so and then another thing that I like to try to do with them as well is have evenly sized meals throughout the day, like not having like a 300 calorie breakfast.
Yeah.
1,500 calorie like lunch, and then it
fills them up too much for later in the day.
And then, what happens if you miss lunch? Then the rest of the day is a bit of a write-off. So trying to have even, which also then helps people with like swapping things around and substituting.
If they know that they don't like before bed, they want to just have something a little bit lighter. Like maybe they can have their breakfast for dinner and dinner for breakfast. Like that's something that I've actually been doing, is like later in the evenings, I don't have an appetite. I don't have an appetite morning or night. So I've actually been doing like sandwiches as my first meal, like to start the day off, which, or like a wrap or something, which I've been having for dinner lately. And then I'll do my smoothie bowl for dinner, because I'm like, it's really like, it's sweet,
and
it's
hot
tasty,
as well.
And exactly. And so it's one of those things, like you can swap that around very easily and know that your total calorie budget isn't going to be blown out in any way. And that's one of the next notes that you've got here as well, is like managing the overall volume of each of those meals. So you can look for a couple of like processed foods. You can go for like vegetables that like wilter a little bit when cooked, that are still going to provide you, like a lot of people when they're in a calorie surplus, and this is kind of referring back to more of like our creating a meal plan thing, but you don't want to be putting in like broccoli and cauliflower and like big veggies in those meals, when you can opt for something like spinach, mushroom, capsicum, which reduces in size, so you're still getting your whole food nutrient profile in, but it's not adding a lot of volume to those meals as well. And that's going to help you with the consistency for the next meal in 2 to 4 hours time or whenever. Like do you ever like put timestamps on people's meals?
I don't put timestamps, but when we have our calls, we talk about timing of the meals.
Yes.
And having like windows of time to have things. Like obviously not everyone's going to have breakfast at the same time every day, but I always encourage people like to have similar sleep wake times, so that then their meal times are all similar.
Yeah.
And if someone's having like difficulty, like really struggling to nail it down, that's when I'll say, all right, at this time, let's get this in.
Yeah.
At this time, let's get this in.
Yeah.
Do you use some?
I'm going to throw Anthony under the bus here. He's someone that notoriously just like doesn't eat.
So needs to have like
he actually has alarms on his phone
that go off like that as well. Yeah, they have like 8 alarms per day for different things.
Yeah, and like sometimes they'll skip the alarm and stuff like that. But I'm very fortunate that Anthony has a beautiful wife that will like
Yep.
Get the food in front
Yep.
of him when he knows he needs it. And I used to do that for Will.
Mm.
I used to cook all of Will's foods, and I used to literally just like bring it out and put it in front of him, because you just don't think about it. If you're not hungry, you don't having those physical cues.
Yep.
Like you don't think about it, and all of a sudden it's like, fuck, I haven't eaten in the last 5 hours. No wonder why I'm feeling that brain fog or whatever. So having the alarm, or having a partner that is going to help you through that, or a workplace that provides you with, you know, certain smoko times and stuff like that, like those are all different little cues to you to be like, all right, I'm going to utilize this to get something in. So yeah, I definitely have clients use alarms to
I have
get something in.
alarms and visual cues as well for some of my more visual people, like pictures of the stuff like on their computer, like sticky notes.
Yeah. Well, for Stupas, I've like when he was opening his gym, Hustler Gym in Melbourne, I told him to put non-perishable snacks at his desk. I was like, I want you to have a drawer of snacks, because like you would not, he was not eating. And so I was like, get, you know, some fruit that was non-perishable fruit in a little fruit basket. And then you could get like some crackers, some muesli bars, some protein bars, or something along those lines to actually just have that visual cue to eat something. And it's not going to get like ants and gross and stuff like that.
I've done that too with people who have had big, like larger calorie needs. So like we have a snack tub. And it's just like a tub where you can break up some muesli bars, throw in some like trail mix, throw in some chocolate or whatever. And literally like as they're working or what, just graze on that. And that's kind of their snacks for the day. Otherwise having things like in the car, in the glove box as well.
When you're out on the road and you're caught out.
Like going on the way to gym, having that in there. Because
especially if you're like on the road just on a Saturday or Sunday and you don't realize, like, you're like, fuck, I'm caught up in traffic, and you get those hungry things.
I had a client who like that, they would, we've worked on this now though, we've identified it, but back before they would not have like lunch because I'd be like PTing and training out of a gym, so they wouldn't have, we've changed that to like a liquid meal that they could blend up like while they're at work. But they used to go for prolonged periods without eating, driving home, see Macca's, KFC, pull in, easy. So now we've got that liquid smoothie, and then we've also got food in the glove box as a tie over, because sometimes people just need something.
You need something small just to get you by until you
have
to do that.
So that was kind of what we did there. I know we've gone a little bit off track, but like for people with larger needs, it's more about how can we fill the day, keep them comfortable. And then really play around with like our carbohydrates pre, during, post.
But having food in the glove box as well is a really handy thing as like a like training snack as well. Like if they're on the road, they're just going to the gym, you're like, oh, fuck, I'm actually like feeling like I need something. Like Odie bars, muesli bars, that sort of stuff. Oh, hello, Will. Will just walked in. Those are really handy snacks to just as a top up. He's walking in as my indicator to wrap this up.
Oh, no.
All right, let me just have a look. Let's make sure we've blitzed through the other things. Reflect on your meal structure. Want to be consuming every 3 to 4 hours. We've talked about that. Brainstorming, ideal pre-training snack. We've gone through that. Try evenly split your intake across main meals. I think we've ticked that off. Set alarms or visual cues. If you take medication that suppresses hunger, can we time our first meal so we're at least get something in? So like I've got, you know, some clients that will use like Ritalin or modafinil and those sorts of things. I definitely encourage, like, when they're taking their health subs or their medications and stuff, to get something in at that time as well.
Get that 1,000 calorie smoothie
the big boy in.
And then we can take the meds, and then alarms and stuff.
And the medications as well, obviously, like you can talk to your doctor about like doing something that's like longer or slower acting. So if it's like a fast acting one and it's over in like 4 hours or 6 hours or something, like that will help you with it. Whereas like there's other ones that are obviously like 12 hours and stuff, and then you lose your appetite over a larger window. There's certain things that you can use to boost it up a little bit as well. But we're not going to get into that. We ain't doctors, but
No.
you can talk to your doctor about that and talk to your doctor about different things. I've had people who have a lot of success with like using CBD oils and stuff like that to help with their appetite,
Okay.
like before bed and things like that. If they're mistiming their medications, and like they're peaking before they go to bed, like those are things that I've had clients have success with. And then we've got like be prepared, ensure you have what you need at the beginning of the week to avoid being on the back foot and getting caught out. So we've mentioned like having plan B or freezer options and stuff like that, long life options, just to make sure that's available. And that kind of refers back to the whole like glove box compartment. Make sure you've just got like backup snacks.
Identify maybe like where you fall down or constant themes where things are kind of like fucking up, and then you can be like, okay, how can I fix this?
Like I don't have any food in the pantry at the moment or in the house because I've come back and Will hasn't helped me out in getting some groceries for me. So yesterday I just went and bought a hot chalk. Like I just bought a hot chalk.
So
I had a
good.
little thing of rice and then I had some frozen veggies.
That's a
in the
great
fridge.
meal.
Yeah.
Like
so
that's exciting to me. I'm like, fuck,
it was
yeah,
very
that's good.
simple. It was tasty. I put a little bit of sweet chili sauce on it, mixed it all up, and it was like
Delish.
tied me over for dinner. And then today will be like, go grocery shopping and stock up on those things. And the last note that we have here is like, if you have no appetite upon waking and like the risks of pushing everything back, like I would just strongly encourage you to get something light, small, easy in and avoid that. Shoving all the calories at the end of the day. And that could be something as simple as like a glass of juice and a piece of fruit or protein.
Milo.
Like,
cereal.
Using your like chalky milk or protein shake or something like that.
And make it something that you like and that maybe you're excited to eat.
Yes.
Like breakfast doesn't have to be, like there are no rules. We just put labels on the meals.
Yeah. There's definitely like things that can help, like getting some more protein in to start the morning off, and those getting some nutrients in if you struggle with your fruit. Like
but that protein can come from anything.
100%.
It doesn't really matter. It doesn't have to be yogurt.
Like I've got a chicken avocado sandwich downstairs.
Toast it. That's like breakfast material. I feel like it's breakfast when you toast it. Like why? I don't understand.
Jaffles. For sure. All right. Well, that's us for today. I think we've covered off meal timing and like we've laced in a lot of other bits and pieces.
There's been a lot in there.
Yeah, a lot of different shit in there. But we do have some more information in relation to like competition specific stuff in our nutrition course.
Yes.
And more performance based stuff in the nutrition course. And when we talked about like leucine protein types, we've got all that in the nutrition course.
In the nutrition course, and it's explained way better than what I did then. So if you want
we dabbled on it,
but better, it's in the nutrition course.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. So if you're out there, you're listening to this and you want to join in on that, kicks off on the 5th of February. Otherwise, that's the end of our potty today. And we will catch you. I don't know when we have our next one recorded. We'll go through our content
try and make
calendar.
better dot points next time.
More dot points, not sentences. We'll plan it together better next time as well, rather than
more things to say.
All right. Adios.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to the Nexus Unloaded podcast. Be sure to jump on our website to find details on everything mentioned in the podcast today, plus information on our coaching, mentoring, and gyms based in the Gold Coast and Townsville. Make sure you follow us on our Instagram for any updates on what we are currently doing, and we'll see you all in the next episode.